old church of St. Michael's had stood for centuries, its towering spires casting long shadows over the small village. The people revered it as a holy place, but whispered tales of a spectral figure that appeared in the dim candlelight, an old priest in flowing robes, his face pale and eyes sunken. It was said that Father Benedict, a devoted priest, had vanished mysteriously 2 centuries ago. He had been known for his deep faith, always seen praying late into the night. Then, one stormy evening, he entered the church and was never seen again. No trace of him was ever found. Some believed he had been taken by divine forces. Others feared something more sinister had occurred. One evening, young Thomas, an apprentice carpenter working on church repairs, stayed behind to complete his work. The candles flickered as the wind howled through the cracks in the ancient walls. As he hammered the last nail into place, he heard the soft whisper of a prayer. He turned, his heart pounding. Near the altar, a figure knelt in prayer, a priest in old-fashioned robes. His lips moved in silent devotion, but no sound came. Thomas stepped closer, a chill running down his spine. The priest's form was not solid. The light from the candles passed through him. Frozen in fear, Thomas backed away. The priest turned his head slowly, his sunken eyes locking onto Thomas. His lips parted, and a hollow voice echoed in the empty church. The sins must be confessed, the truth must be revealed. Thomas ran out, gasping for breath. He told the villagers, but few believed him. Only old Martha, the church caretaker, nodded solemnly. "He seeks redemption," she whispered. "Something keeps him bound to this world." Determined to uncover the truth, Thomas began researching old records. He found a faded journal belonging to Father Benedict. The final entry was chilling. "I have discovered the terrible secret buried beneath these sacred walls. If I do not return, know that darkness has consumed this place." Beneath the church, Thomas's curiosity burned. With Martha's help, he found a hidden trapdoor beneath the altar. It led to an ancient crypt. The air was damp, thick with decay. Bones lay scattered, remnants of forgotten souls. And then, at the far end, he saw it. A skeletal figure in priestly robes, a rusted cross clutched in its bony fingers. Father Benedict's remains. Thomas knelt, a heavy realization sinking in. The priest had been murdered. But why? As he examined the skeleton, a faint whisper filled the air. The ghostly priest stood before him, sadness in his hollow eyes. "You have found me," the spirit murmured, "but the darkness still lingers." Before Thomas could ask what he meant, the candles flickered violently. A chilling wind swept through the crypt, and from the shadows, another presence stirred, something dark, something angry. The ground trembled. A shadowy form rose from the depths, tendrils of darkness curling around the walls. A deep, guttural voice hissed, "You should not have come." The crypt was suddenly suffocating, the air thick with unseen hands clawing at Thomas's throat. The ghostly priest raised his hands, a dim light radiating from his spectral form. The darkness recoiled, shrieking. "The church must be cleansed," Father Benedict's spirit declared. "The sin must be undone." With a final desperate prayer, the priest's spirit surged forward, colliding with the darkness. A blinding light erupted, shaking the very foundation of the church. Thomas shielded his eyes as the crypt groaned and trembled. Then, silence. When Thomas opened his eyes, the ghost was gone. The bones of Father Benedict lay still, finally at peace. But the shadow, it had not been destroyed. Thomas could feel it lingering. Watching, waiting, the battle was far from over. The darkness had not been fully vanquished. Even after Father Benedict's spirit faded, Thomas felt an eerie presence lingering in St. Michael's Church. The heavy silence that followed was unsettling, as if the shadows still watched from unseen corners. Father Gabriel, barely able to stand, gripped Thomas's arm. "We have weakened it, but it is not gone. The entity was bound here long before this church was built. It will return." Thomas's heart sank. He thought they had ended it. But now he realized the true horror. This evil was ancient, beyond their understanding, and it would rise again unless they found a permanent way to banish it. That night, Thomas stayed in the church, determined to keep watch. He lit candles, muttered prayers, and kept the silver crucifix close. But the moment midnight struck, the room grew cold. The candles flickered, their flames turning a sickly green before vanishing one by one. Then came the whispers. "You should not have done that, Thomas." A shiver ran down his spine. The voice was different this time, mocking, knowing. Thomas turned slowly, and in the dim moonlight, he saw it. A figure standing at the altar. A priest, but not Father Benedict. This one was different. His robes were black, his face obscured by shadow. His hands were clasped together as if in prayer, but something about him was deeply wrong. Thomas stepped back, his breath shallow. "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head slightly, then stepped forward. His movements were unnatural, almost as if he were gliding. When he spoke, his voice was layered, as if multiple voices spoke in unison. "I am the first, the forgotten, the one who was here before your God." The room darkened further, an invisible weight pressing down on Thomas's chest. He struggled to breathe. His hands gripped the crucifix tighter. Father Gabriel had warned him that the entity had been here long before St. Michael's was built. Was this the true source of evil? The black-robed priest extended a hand, and Thomas felt an invisible force tightening around his throat. He gasped, dropping to his knees. His vision blurred. He was being pulled into the abyss. Then, a sudden warmth. A bright light filled the church. A familiar voice, Father Benedict's, rang out. "Not yet, Thomas. You still have a purpose." The force around his throat loosened, and Thomas collapsed, gasping for air. When he looked up, the dark priest was gone. But the church still felt tainted. Thomas knew now, this was not just the ghost of Father Benedict seeking peace. This was something much bigger, something older. The battle wasn't over. It had only just begun.